Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Freedom Mastermind, and I am your host today, Adam Wins. It's nice to have you all here with us. Um, how you doing today, everybody? If you want to leave a comment in the comments section. It is up to the right hand corner, and we look forward to all of your wonderful comments today. Um, we might be having some special guests today. We might not. Um, One of the things that I wanted to go over with everybody today is record keeping. So, one of the things when you have an ecclesiastical trust and you have an exemption from filings, right? So, there's an exemption from mandatory filings. That doesn't mean that you can't do filings. That doesn't mean that there aren't filings. There doesn't mean that there aren't ways that you can do filings. Okay. So, as Rice McLeod said, let's say filings are something that we're responsible for, and we're responsible to do those however it is we want to do those as trustees. Because again, with the trust, we make the laws, right? So the bylaws of the trust are whatever you make them, right? So you're going to make a perfected trust, and one of the things that I want everybody to have is one of these. Okay, this is a white binder. I got one of these white binders for every single trust. My wife has them for her trust. I have them for my trust. It's very good to keep trust business in a trust folder. Okay, so all of your trust business goes into one trust folder, and it's absolutely important that you keep track of everything. So the number one thing that I like to keep in this binder is first and foremost one copy of your original trust documents. Okay. And that would be in the case of the ecclesiastical trust, um, you know, that would be both trusts because we do a dual trust there. Another thing I like to have in my binder is my powers of attorney. Okay. That's something that's always there. And the third thing that I like to have in there is my, here, I'll just kind of open them up and kind of show you a little bit about my binder and how it goes. I'm not going to show you the name or anything else, but your EIN. Okay, so that's your EIN statements. Sometimes I do multiple trusts in one file if they're related or if they're sub trusts or trusts that are stacking trusts. But I always, at the very least, keep a, let's say, trust documents. That's the Declaration of Trust. EIN. Then I also put in some other things. So we have fee schedule. If anybody wants to, trespass upon my trust or would want to come in, if you're, so we've got the fee schedule posted, notarized, and in our documents, right? And then we put all of the, let me show you here. We put the essential elements and different things that's necessary for the fines and fees and different things that we want to, let's say, recommend for what it is we're doing, right? So if we're in a case where it's our home and this trust is the trust that owns our home and the home is in that trust, then we're going to have fines and fees for trespassing. It's good to have a sign-in book. It's good to have your no trespassing signs up. Even in my books, and in most all of my different binders that I have, because I have multiple binders, we have statements of not only statements, but we have our no trespassing signs that are also signed by me, the trustee, in invoking, who owns the property. And, it's under the authority of, in most cases, Jesus Christ, however you'd like to put it. In my case, I put it under the authority of Jesus Christ. And that's the authority of that property. So we have our, let's say, IRS documents, which are our accounting documents showing that we have, got ourselves an EIN for our public and our trust that we do banking with. Our private trust, we do keep in the same binder as well. Now, none of these documents under any circumstances would you ever turn over to anybody else. Okay. So this binder is never leaving my hands, right? So if the police come knock on the door and they say, "Is this your house?" I flip it over and I show them the deed that is in this binder, right? The quitclaim deed, where I quitclaim my property to my trust. I put that in that binder, and then if there's any questions, it's there. Now, furthermore, I get into the explanation. So I'll print out the definitions because you don't know who you're going to need to show it to. So if some moron comes to your door and says, "Yeah, this isn't your house," or blah, 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 or whatever, or somebody's trying to do something. If somebody tries to do something, we have to basically have those documents ready. And I have an explanation. So like what it means to hold the deed, what that means. Like, who am I in this situation when I hold the deed? Like, if somebody's coming up and making a claim against me or making a claim against my property, what does that mean? Okay. And the same thing with your vehicle. Your vehicle goes into another binder, into another trust. Okay. In the very beginning, if you put everything into one trust, great. But from there, you separate out your liabilities. And if your home is one of those liabilities, if you get multiple homes, if you have rental homes, each one needs to be in a separate trust. Okay. As well as, keeping good records for that. So you got to have minutes meetings when you elect a new trustee, when you rescind somebody's and you recall them and you cancel them as trustee. That can be done too. You can cancel yourself. You can withdraw as a trustee of your own trust and appoint somebody else if they're willing. Okay. The appointment of trusteeship has to be done with their signature and with their notarization. So you'll notice in your trust documents, you're getting yourself, the trustee, and you're also getting the survivor trustee's notary, because it's absolutely paramount that you have that done. So, I put some banking stuff in this folder. So I have some checks. I have, just everything that I need for the trust. I put in leases. I put in any contracts that I have. I keep them all in here. And this is for me. So in the case that you're driving in your vehicle, you need to have the same thing. So Adam, you mentioned power of attorney. Do you have one for all the trusts separate depending on the trust? Yeah. So, I have my trust documentation there that shows that I'm the trustee. But if you want to, you can just go, and if you need proof that you're a trustee, okay, then what you would do is you can show your EIN, right? So if it's a government employee and they're like, "Well, who's this trust vehicle? Who's the trustee?" You say, "Hey, it's right here in my EIN," right? You have an IRS form that says the name of the trust, which the vehicle's registered in, and then you have your name as TTEE, which is trustee. Okay, that's their abbreviation for trustee. Now, one other thing to note, I recently did a trust with an apostrophe, and it did not come out on the EIN. Apostrophes don't come out, but don't fear. Okay. All you have to do is make a notation in your minutes or anywhere that you're using whatever it is, apostrophe S, and where it just comes out with the S with no apostrophe, that it's the same entity, and you're not going to have any troubles there anyways. So we have fee schedule. I have application for delivery of mail through an agent. Okay, so I have another government form that is notarized. United States Postal Service, copyrighted application for delivery of mail through an agent. Okay, that's one of the things that I like to keep in here, which is the trust proof of address, right? And not only that, it's their proof of agency. Okay, so I'm not going to show you everything, but we've got this form here. Okay, and that's in my my white booklet too, and it's notarized at the bottom. And it's a good thing just to keep in your records. Okay, these are things that you don't want to lose, because at some point somebody may ask you. You might have a claim, either a claim for you or against you, or for your trust or against your trust. Now let's get on the subject of that. So I'm frequently all over the world, right? So one of the things as a trustee we have to do, one of the things that I have to do, because I'm big into this, right, is claims, filing claims. So, it recently, I've been having some dependability problems with people just being basically unreliable. And I've needed things sent in the mail. And one of those things that is important when you send something off is to have proof of mailing, right? Because if the other party you're mailing something to, especially a legal notice, right? So in most cases, we're sending off notices. And in those notices, we're sending it through this application for delivery of mail through an agent. So we're doing it through an agency. So I've got a couple companies that I found that are really good. They keep records of the mail that you actually file. And what this does is it gives you that proof of delivery for important notices. And I found some mailing services are better than others. So the mail that we receive to, their mailing out isn't so good. But the thing is, when you start a trust and you start it with that mailing address, you want to try to keep that. So, keep that service going up. You don't really want to change the address if at all possible. It's better to just keep it the way it is. But you want to keep those things on hand at all times. So if you need to know like what minutes meetings need to look like or what they need to be, okay, it can be a scratch on a piece of paper. It could be a cocktail napkin that said, "Hey, we just decided in the trust as trustee that we're going to appoint this person over here. They've agreed to take a new trusteeship, or we're going to purchase a new vehicle in this trust, and you sign it by trustee." That's really all you need. So a minutes meeting, everything is it's your law. So you're creating how you operate. So there are no, again, even what I'm telling you here is subject to my own criticism, meaning it's absolutely your choice in how you do it. You can do minutes by just you can scratch it on the wall, like 1 + 1, now we have 2, it's absolutely your choice in how you do minutes. It really doesn't matter. Nobody can tell you what to do. That's the thing about a trust. The only person that can tell you, or the only entity that can tell you what to do, is another trustee. So if you have 2 trustees who are acting in a trustee capacity, you can make the rules together how you want to keep minutes. You can make the rules together how you want to have those minutes meetings, okay? Even this white binder, it's not required by law, okay? This is not required by how you do the trust. What I'm saying is everybody, David had a binder, right? And everybody got the David Straight binder. And it was how do you say? It was really, it was copied. I think we have it on FreemanBot. If you want a copy of it, it's there. But the actual binder itself, it's not what's inside of it, because that was David's binder, or the things that were important for David, right? So that was great for him. Some of those things that really don't pertain to you, don't pertain to me, aren't really important to us in our circumstances. So you want to put all the important documents that you need into the trust. It's absolutely paramount that you have, you know, your EIN, your trust declaration, because I have to consult it, even when you just go to do your EIN, you have to have your declaration, because what date was it funded? What date was all these different things, right? You have to get into those and go. And, you got to have it handy, because they only give you a little bit of time with that. And then I have some contracting agreements. So when I use the trust to contract, I have some contracting agreements that are in my trust. I'm just going to flip through the papers a little bit. So we have, our payment of fee schedules of how, we get paid and how things work in the trust with others that we contract with. That's really cool. We have some notices. So we have some notices in the file folder. We have some shares of an LLC that was purchased by the trust, that the trust now owns, and we have those share agreements in the binder. We have some technology and licensing agreements. And we have a really good thing that's that we always put in there, and we keep it everywhere, our notice to public servants and the public servant questionnaire. So I don't know if you guys have this. I don't recall where this one came from. I don't know if it was one of David's one or it was somebody else's, but this is freedomfromgovernment.org. I don't know if we'll ever have that completely, but I just like to work within the realms of my capacity and theirs. So, it just reserves all your rights, and you're asking the public servants, to answer this questionnaire, because they're always asking you questions, and you're just like, I don't answer questions, but your job is to answer questions. So, what's your name, your agency, your supervisor's address? Will you uphold the Constitution? What's your state ID? What's your bond and your bond number? All these things that a lot of us fail to ask, and it's the same thing with the attorney questionnaire. So this is the public officials questionnaire. And when you're contracting with an attorney, I highly advise you to use the attorney questionnaire. And most attorneys will refuse it. So you just know who you're dealing with right away. It's kind of like the God contract. It's really good to, do that. But moving on, we've got the public servant questionnaire. And then I have some IRS documents. So I want to give a big shout out to one of David's closest friends and one of David's best friends. He shout out a lot to you. I called him recently. He said, Adam, we're having some major breakthroughs in the Sesta QV Trust, and I think I'm very close to, getting mine. I'm like, wow, man, that's really good. I've been handling some other claims at the moment for some of the trusts and doing straight trust work, not Sesta QV Trust work. He's been really focused on that. So thank you for that. And one of the things he did mention to me was that it is, a lot to do with tax paperwork, meaning not tax paperwork, but IRS paperwork, right? So the Internal Revenue System, right? And that Internal Revenue System is like, where I keep my completed documents in my folder. And then I have these documents just in case I would need to use one for a court case or, any type of acquisition or abandonment of property. So this is a 1099-A, okay? It has 3 pages, 1, 2, 3. They're all carbon copies, except they have different instructions, okay? So this top one has no instructions. So the top one has no instructions whatsoever. The second one has instructions for the borrower. And the third one has instructions for the lender, okay? So they're all right here on the back. and it says caution because paper forms are scanned during the processing. You cannot file certain forms that you print from the IRS website. You have to have the originals. Okay. So these are originals. If you don't have them, get some. Okay. And I have a whole, let's say, binder here of different IRS forms. Okay. So don't know what kind I'm going to need, but what I've been told and what I've been clued into, for those of you out there that are still really interested in your Sesta QV Trust, there are some really big breakthroughs going on. I'm gonna keep giving you those as they come in. I'm probably gonna go spend some time with Ron about that. One of the things that he did mention is that they're all there in the instructions. Okay, all the forms are there with the IRS. That is a great way to get access to your Sesta QV Trust. Now, he also said that you must have a business plan. Okay. So as we've been told, he said, Dave is right about everything. Pretty much a lot. So just kind of giving you guys an idea of how I prepare myself with these forms. And that is the 1099A. Okay. Now you can file some of these online. So there is a 1099A service, and you can go to 1099a.com because they're trying to make everything, let's say, digital, money, everything else. But this is money, right? This is money. It's a check. It's a carbon copy, situation where you've got a lot of, different things. Now, I don't know if you've all done this. If you haven't, you probably should. But I've done done several of my own trusts and EINs. I don't know if you have. Yes, Samantha. It's I'm great. I'm grateful you're still interested in your Sesta QV Trust. More information is going to be coming there. There's a million ways. This is what Ron and I were discussing, that there's absolutely like no finite direct way that you must do something. Okay. So what we're giving you is the clues and the puzzle pieces, and whether it was Bobby or David or Kiki or Ron or Adam or whoever gave you the clue that you needed at that time, it's great, right? None of us have the answers for you because everybody's wealth and everybody's riches are in a different place. And most of them are here that you have to first unlock the key to begin getting them. You have to receive them first. You have to know what it feels like to have them. And part of, establishing your bank account, right, and establishing your bank is to have the right forms and paperwork. Okay. I spoke to a woman in West Virginia, I think it was, that owned her own bank. We got in with this bank owner, and she said, I can't really tell you much about the 1099A because that's how I make all my money, and I don't really want to tell you about it. So, if that's one key, and we're supposed to be our perfect bankers and a perfect merchant, and we're all bankers, then that's that's something that we've got to work on for ourselves and kind of know what to do. So additionally, I've got, a whole bunch of paperwork, like some documents that are certified proofs of service that are notarized, where some of those mailings, we were talking about mailings earlier, where those mailings go out and it's a certified proof of service, right? And that would go with a green card. And the green card is, for me, we have the originals, but we just take a copy and put that on a certified proof of service, the copy of the green card, and we get that notarized, because then we have a certified proof that, hey, this was delivered to this jerky guy who owed us some money or whatever it was, or whatever we need to tell them on this date. Okay. So that's also in my document folder. So I have all these certified proofs. I got a whole stack of them here. I'm just trying to find out. It's just one after the other of proof of certifications. So those are great, and keep your documents right. So this is what we mean about record keeping and filing, and these are the important things that you need to keep. Now, I think somebody was asking about this document, right? Okay. So this is, now there's two different types of power of attorneys, right? So this is a power of attorney, which is called the 2848. Okay, if you can see that there. Okay. Now, Scott, when Scott gets on, maybe he can answer you a few more questions. Now, this is not a notarized document, but you can have it notarized. And as I understood, you could even have it medallion stamped, right? Because it's a power of attorney, and you just might want to have power of attorney over your estate, right? Because like in the Adam estate, which I do have an EIN for, that puts me as the trustee, because that's the position that I wanted to take. Giving myself the power of attorney over my estate, filing this form with the IRS and having a notarized copy could be very valuable to have in your notebook, if you get what I'm saying. So, a 2848 is a power of attorney and declaration of representative. Okay. Keep these handy. These are something you can just print off the internet. I'm not going to show you this one because it was a state of one of my dad's, because I have two. I have several birth certificates and a whole bunch of other weird stuff too, but that's the 2848. So if you haven't done those, you should think about doing those. Okay. And, if you want to file this and send it to the IRS, great. For your trust, you can simply sign it and go. Oh, speaking of the man, Scott, are you there? Oh, he's not there yet. So he kind of popped onto the stage, but he's not there. Bo's behind the stage too, but I don't think he's got video today, so I can't see him. But we're waiting for Scott to come on. Let me bump him really quick. I'm gonna kick him from the studio, and then hopefully he'll come back on. Let me see. Let me see. Scott, come back on. And I apologize, guys. We have a hard stop today at 6 o'clock. I have to head out, and we got to end it there. But yeah, Bo doesn't have video today. Scott is having a little connection problem. It's okay. I think maybe you guys are learning something. I hope so, because this is like real important stuff. Because there's the man. There we go, Scott. I'm so grateful you joined us. Can you hear me? Scott, can you hear me? Scott, can you hear me? Yeah, it's a connection problem. Man, I really wanted him to get on about the 2848 and talk about that. It's an amazing document, and I know Scott's really taken it pretty far. So I was hoping he could lend some light to that. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he can hear us. Scott, you there? We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I kept getting booted off. I go into a different screen every time I try to log on.
Oh,
Something's
okay.
going on.
You're on now. Can you hear me all right? Not so good. Scott, we're going over this document right here. You want to talk to us about it?
I can't hear anything, Adam.
Okay. I'm going to remove him again real quick. I'm going to kick you again and come back in, okay? Hopefully it's just a minor technical error and he can come back. But Scott has filled out these 2848s more powerfully than anybody else has. He's done them to take over his own trust, his own estate. Take power of attorney of that. You can take power of attorney of your parents' estates if you haven't. There's a lot of paperwork in there that you really need to look at. And then take over the power of attorney of your own trust, right? If you have an EIN, you want to have this power of attorney form. So I hope that answers exactly what you're saying there. And it doesn't say that you must. So there is a declaration that it says they will return the power of attorney to the taxpayer if it's not signed, dated, and completed. Okay. So you can send it to them or not. I mean, it's not something that you must. It says a separate 2848 must be completed for each taxpayer. Form 2848 will not be honored for any purpose other than representation before the IRS. Okay. So perfect. They're the Treasury's accounting department. But again, you can use it for other means of proof if necessary. So yeah, the 2848, have it. I'm just kind of doing the show and tell. I've just got another trust document. I have banking documents in my book. And let's see, what else do I have here? I have this is an older document, but the 1040Vs. I don't know if you guys have learned anything about those, tried those or not. It's a payment voucher, and it's a pleaded form from the IRS, like that for payments. So, as long as you're endorsing things properly for patent right. Hey, Lucas, love you all, man. Sorry it took you so long to connect. Yeah, there's been some weird things going on with the internet lately, and maybe they didn't want you to see this episode, but it's going to be recorded. There's again, we've got another form, which is the 1096. Okay, so the 1096 goes along with, and this one's older, right? It says 2022, but I don't think it has expired. So you can still use it unless they have a new form, and then you might have to fill in that new form. But if you look at this, I'm gonna show you a big clue here. Okay, so if you guys want to find out some information, you can send to the IRS and you can ask them for all these forms. Okay, all these forms. Now, what are all these forms for? Okay, they're for you. And to find out the instructions, because they all come with instruction manuals, right? And if you just read the instructions, they're all open to your interpretation. So don't call up the IRS and ask them some nonsense, okay? It says who must file. Any person or entity who files any of the forms shown in line 6 above must file Form 1096 to transmit those forms to the IRS. So you're transmitting them. Okay, because before that, they weren't transmitted. So look up the definition of the word transmit in a banking dictionary, and that might tell you something. Okay, because these are all, well, the IRS is a big ass bank, right? And it's a big record keeping place. So again, transmitting to the IRS the forms by form number and transmit each group with a separate form 1096. For example, if you must file both forms 1098 and 1099A, complete one form 96 to transmit your 1098 forms and another your 1096. Okay. Do not send form containing summaries all together. Box 1, 2, enter your TIN, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So again, you can even correct the forms if you didn't do them correctly. So they're all correctable. But I just want to show you this, okay? This is just a start. This is just a start of, come on, whoever's calling in needs to stop that. Thank you. This is just the start of the documents that you need. And a lot of these are going to come with instructions, okay? And if you want to pursue your trust, this is a good methodology to start with, okay? The first thing you're probably going to need, I would say, again, EIN. I would say a deed of trust, right? Because to show proof of anything, you have to have the deed. So whether that's a deed poll or a deed of trust, so David wanted to say, I sent the 56F per David Straight Mastermind, but with the 2848 POA. Okay, just read instructions. They will respond giving access to the trust. I don't think that's going to get you access to your trust by sending a Form 56. Form 56 is I don't even recall which that one is. It's the fiduciary relationship. So yeah, you can appoint them or somebody else as your fiduciary. But my understanding with the Form 56 is yeah, okay, guys. My understanding with the Form 56 is that the Form 56 is just where you want to appoint somebody else as your fiduciary, right? Now, in a lot of cases, the fiduciary of a trust is the trustee. So if you're appointing yourself as fiduciary, great. If you'd like to appoint them as a fiduciary, it's going to depend. Like it depends on the case, because again, everybody's wrapping their brain around what they want and trying to get it from me or trying to get it from David or trying to get it from Bobby, and everybody's situation is completely different, okay? So if you're in a court situation, a Form 56 might be applicable to put somebody else to be your trustee if you're not doing your job very well as your own trustee, right? So if you're in court for some reason and you don't have these documents already prepared, you can try to request them to be your trustee. I would always try to remain the trustee of my trust. That's the only way I can trust that is not going to get stolen away. Because as soon as I allow somebody else to be a trustee, they don't have to follow the rules of the trust. And then all I can do is complain as a trustee against them and kick them out as a trustee. That's pretty much how it is. A deed of a trust is, what Scott already sent us. I mean, there's plenty of ways to do a deed of trust. Okay. I've sent the documents. They're on the Telegram. Deed of trust. You create those documents. So again, depends what you're doing the deed of trust for, right? For your house, for your person. Are you doing a deed poll? Are you, again, for me, I like to cover my bases and do them all. Powers of attorney. So I have separate powers of attorney in here. I've got a stack, and I'm going to kind of, let's show you a little bit. It is stamped there with my proof of my DNA that this was really my power of attorney. So if anybody wanted to contest it, they would have a hard time because my blood is on it, right? So it's really me. It's not a notary that was lying. It's nothing else. And this is a durable power of attorney for financial management. Okay. The IRS form is just a statement. Okay. This is the actual document that holds the weight that you want to fill out and complete. Okay. You want to have a healthcare power of attorney. You want to have a financial power of attorney. And when you're doing trust work, okay, in your minutes meetings or in your rules or your law or your scripture or whatever you're writing, how you want your assets that are in that trust to go to the survivor trustee, meaning how you want them to, like, let's say you own a piece of property, you don't ever want it to be condominiums and you always want it to be farmland. That has to be in your minutes, and it has to be something that you would then get notarized and say that it's, something not allowed to be changed. And I would file that with the deed to the property. When you file the quitclaim deed with the county, I would add that as, you can add affidavits there. You can add whatever you want. It's your law, right? The county clerk just has to record your stuff on your land. You can put easements on there. You can do whatever you want. Okay. There's no, again, when you go to the clerk, they're going to tell you, no, you can't do that. And then just don't listen to them. Just keep doing it anyways, and just try to get it done. And if you can't get it done there, go online and get it done in the files there, and if you have to serve them with the notice to the clerk, serve them with the notice to the clerk and enforce the rules. If you have to take them to court, take them to court. That's the last resort. But you kind of just got to keep going at it with all this stuff. And make sure that you're keeping these records, that they're notarized. And if you have certain notaries, like for your trust documents, I would say it's not a bad idea if it's an important trust. Okay. Not all trusts are created equal, meaning you're not using them all for your most important things, but having your trust certified isn't a bad idea. And the certification is just on the notary, because there's a lot of notary fraud, especially what's going on right now in the housing crisis is that many people are involved with. We have the MERS system. We have a lot of out-of-state notaries doing notaries for people or entities that, weren't real witnesses. So there's a lot of notary fraud. I'm dealing with a collection I have right now with notary fraud. And it's really hard to even put in a complaint against the notary. It's pages and pages. You got to then go take it here and download this, and you can't get the forms. They make it really challenging because, that's what they use in a lot of times in the cases against us. So you have to be like extra diligent, and vigilant in your focus of getting these things done. I spent a literal day yesterday on the Texas SOS notary complaint website trying to get a complaint filed, and I still haven't get it filed because I got to upload some more documents, and then it wouldn't take this format. And it's just, they intentionally make these things hard. So the biggest thing with all this stuff is, David, the 56F, let me get back to that. The 2848 power of attorney, just read the instructions. Will they respond giving access to the trust? Again, there's a lot of things, and it's if it was that easy, it's not. So, these kind of things, you got to look into them. You got to read and see which ones apply to you, which ones apply to that trust. Lucas filed a notice of existence of the trust on Monday. My natural signature in red with my thumbprint. My certified copies were stamped, sealed. Nice. Yeah. And you can file that. You can file, a lot of different things. You can file the whole declaration if you want. In some cases I do, in some cases I don't. In some cases it's better if you do, in some cases it's better if you don't. It just depends how you want to use your trust. If it's a public trust, if it's a private trust, how you want to, do all those things. So yeah. And again, the IRS even says, like, for their notices, keep a copy of this notice for your permanent records. This notice is issued only one time, and the IRS will not be able to generate a duplicate copy for you. You may give a copy of this document to anyone asking for proof of your EIN. Okay. Use this EIN and your name exactly as they appear at the top of this notice on all your federal tax forms. Refer to this EIN on your tax-related correspondence documents. Provide future officers and your organization with a copy of this notice. Okay. Your name control associated with this EIN is Adam. You will need to provide this along with your EIN. I just told you my secret password they gave me. It's my first name. So anyways, safeguard your EIN by referencing publication 4557, Safeguarding Taxpayer Data, a guide for your business. Okay. So what we mean and what David's best friend was telling me then, get it done. I'm telling you today and showing you today that I've done it. I'm not just saying to do it. This is one of my binders, and I've got cases of these binders, and you might think that it doesn't matter, or we don't really need that, or Adam, it's just a lot of paperwork, and it is a lot of paperwork until you need it, until you get a call. Hey, Adam, I got an issue and I need a trust and I don't have one filed. Can you help me? I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a trust. Well, I need you to be a trustee for me. Really? Wow. Okay, let's do it. And those calls surprisingly happen quite frequently. Okay, because when you're ready to receive, you have to be ready to receive, and you have to show that you're a good trustee. You got to get the work done. You got to get it done on time. You have to, administer things when they're supposed to be administered. You got to keep your records so that you have them, and really keep things on file, because if anybody comes to you, you need to be able to stand on it in an instant. Oh, let me get my notebook, let me get my binder, and it has everything in it. There's always going to be mistakes as a trustee. We had a couple where some of our binders got misplaced from from a trustee. I'm kind of smiling at my wife over here. Are you there? She's here still. But it's one of those things where there's always remedy. So even if you make a mistake with it, even if you didn't do your binder yet, even if you failed to keep good records on it, you can start now. And that's the beauty of it. But not doing it and making excuses and distracting yourself and doing 101 other things than this, I'm just of the knowledge, the knowing that if you can't be trusted with this, then you can't be trusted with other things, and then other things are going to be taken away from you, whether it's by another trustee or whether it's by your own actions, and you're not getting it. So the first one, this is your God trust, your God contract. In my other trust documents that are safe the way, we do have the God contract, but that's not for anybody else except for between me and God. If I ever needed to bring that into court, I can. Again, my choice. All of these things are our choice, but it's not a choice not to have the documents done. So what I was showing you today is that, there is value. I mean, there's a huge value, okay? An absolute huge value in getting these things done, learning how to be a trustee. And even if you don't have anything, right? Even if you're minus $1 gazillion, that's still an asset. So don't think of yourself as well, I don't have any assets. Well, if you have debts or, somebody owes you money, that's something that can be very valuable. Not so valuable if you owe other people money, but depending on how it is and how you can do the paperwork to show that, it is. So, A lot of my documents, like when I send off notices, those types of things, I'll keep one in a binder. The other ones are digitized. So I put a folder on every single, let's say, collection I'm doing or whatever that may be. Now, if you don't know what I mean by collections, um, I mean, if you saw what there's a video posted on the Telegram channel about arbitration. Okay. And arbitration is a really messed up topic. And it's really a contract with the bar where they can take you outside of court, charge you as much as they want as lawyers. So it's for lawyers, by lawyers, run by lawyers. It's called the AAA. And the average person signs 1,600 contracts in their life. So every time you click that little check, I agree to this Google or Facebook or whatever it is, you're agreeing to their arbitration, right? Which basically says, and they're finding this out now because of like Uber Eats. So if anybody ever signed something like way back on Uber and tried something, if they took an Uber and got raped now, they wouldn't be able to go to criminal court for it. They'd have to go to arbitration because they once bought food on Uber Eats. So they're really abusing it, and then they charge you an unlimited amount of money to bring it to court, and then they take an unlimited amount of time to actually do it. So I'm all for arbitration, but private arbitration under the Federal Arbitration Act. So if you put arbitration into your guidelines, make sure that you are the one that determines where the arbitration occurs. Make sure that you're using a good arbitration company with 3 neutral arbitrators. Yeah, some people like the National Arbitration Association. I can recommend it. What they do is they get 3 people to arbitrate the case. They're paid a little bit, not a huge amount, and they're experts on the subject. So if it's a subject of like if your roof collapsed, you'd have a roofer, you'd have an architect, and you'd have like a general contractor, right? So you'd have like 3 people that know something about what the issue is. They'd look at all the evidence and then make a decision instead of a judge, because judges are not complete morons, but they're at a different level of moron because they generally don't know the subject matter that they're refereeing in most cases, right? If it's murder, great. If it's theft, great. If it's trespass, great. But on these civil sides of things, like, whoever's like deciding for the Diddy trial, or what are they, experts on, drugging people? I don't know. It's kind of nonsense. I prefer arbitration where you get people who are experts in what it is when it's a civil thing, and they have like a good relationship to, they have a good authority, and they have a higher authority to me than a judge does because they have expertise in what it is. And that's what the Federal Arbitration Act says. So, the AAA is just there to get you to give your rights away. So this is a huge, dangerous thing, So, I would say rescinding that, one of the things the God contract does is it does rescind that. Now, does it rescind that directly? No. So do you want to add that? Yes. You know what I mean? That's why it's a never perfect document. So you want to always add those things, make sure you're covered, and then keep good records for your trust. It's just absolutely paramount that you start assembling these folders with all your documents in them, and keep it on the top of your mind. And then those things are going to start coming into you like, oh, I need to use the trust for this, or, oh, I need to use the trust for that. And, signing as a trustee, right? Signing as trustee is critical. So always by your first name, last name, dash trustee is the way that you want to sign your name, because you always want to wear the hat of trustee. Okay. Almost in all circumstances. I don't really ever choose to be a beneficiary. You can, if it's something you need. If it's a contract with the United States government, where you've paid into something like an insurance policy, like Social Security, you are the beneficiary of that policy. Okay. And using the form 56, to make them recall that they are the fiduciary of that is quite helpful to make sure that they're operating the way that they're supposed to be operating. You know, if you get them in front of a hearing or what have you. So are there paths to your Social Security trust and your Cesta QV trust through the Social Security Administration? Yes. Are there paths through the IRS? Yes. Are there paths to just find amazing riches and whatever it is you want from God, from the creator and creator trust right into you? Absolutely. Keep your eyes open, your eyes peeled, be ready for it, be prepared. Have your documents ready, know how to use them, know the instructions, practice, fail a couple times, you're not going to get it right on your first time. And don't give up, and don't think that it's too much work, because if you're not enjoying it and you don't like to do it, then just don't do it. Do something else. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy. And sometimes I'm like also extremely frustrated. I was messing with like I said yesterday, with the Texas notary website, and it was absolutely just messing with me and giving me a headache. And did I want to give up? Sure, I did. But was I ever going to? No, I never give up. That's the thing. And you just can't, because then when you never give up, then you win. And this whole thing is about winning and being the winningest. It's about winning most often, which means never giving up and just continuing through. They're going to tell you no. They're going to tell you go over here. They're going to tell you go over there. Oh, you didn't file this right. You didn't file that right. But the main thing is you just continue and you don't give up. And even when you feel like, it's scary, like, oh man, I don't know, I got to file this and I got to do that. Oh, the whole thing is going to, it's going to cost so much. It's going to take years and years and years. Well, it will if you wanted to, you know what I mean? But again, you do have some control of how these things go. And a lot of it is, again, up here. When you unlock it, you can make these things go a lot faster. I don't know. I think I started my trust work. What year did we start our trust work? Like 2018, 17. Around then, we really got hardcore into it. The original trust work is with the Bible. Started that a long time ago. It's like, everybody's definition of fast or slow is their own. So if you're in a hurry for something to happen, make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, the first thing everybody should do is get your trust. If you own anything, a piece of property, quit claim deed it or bill of sale it to the trust, and, try to get as many assets to God as you can. So they're not yours. They're just a burden. Learn usufruct. Learn what usufruct is. It's so important that, the things here anyways, they want to claim ownership of everything. They want to claim ownership of your car. They want to claim ownership of your house. They want to tax you on the house. They want to tax you on the car. So give it to God. And then who are they going to fight with? God? So, is it that easy? It can be if you make it that way. But again, you've got to create this. You've got to do it. And you've got to create, a little bit of paperwork. Because if you don't have it and you need it, you're going to be screwed. And I've just seen it happen too many times. And it's like, if you're going to court, right, and you don't have a declaration of competency, you're crazy, right? Because that's one of the tricks they do. You got to learn about what all these people do and what all these things are, right? That's why you have to learn what the trust is about. It's great to get it today, but then learn how to use it and be the fiduciary, be the trustee, and be the one that gets these things done. And I'm saying this just as much for myself as I am for you guys, because I get distressed. I'm like, oh man, it's another paper I got to do. And I got mountains of paperwork that I have to send out, because otherwise, if you don't ask, you won't receive, right? I got people that owe a ton of money. I got to collect it. How do I collect it? You got to ask for it. And you got to ask in the right way. You got to be prepared, right? So if you all want to go and ask for your Sesta QV trust, well, it comes with a high weight. It comes with a high weight if you're the fiduciary of that trust. And it comes with you gotta know what you're doing. They want to see a business plan. They want to see what you're going to do with it, and really what kind of shelter you need, what kind of house you need, what kind of what are all these things that you need that you don't have? Are they just shit you want? A lot of times, we got to really know what it is that we need. We'll get that. But a lot of times we want dumb shit that we don't need. And then when we get it, we're like, now what do we do with this, right? So just be careful with that. I know that I needed a trust. I needed it. And I did it. So get your God contract done. Get your trust done. Love you all. I can see you getting it done. So, get it done. It's some of it's a little pain in the butt. I get it. Don't fight it. Turn it into love and get it all done. We'll see you next week. If there's any questions on any of the paperwork, bring your white folder in. And if you got any pages to post, a little update on FreemanBot. We did add in due process AI. So if any of you guys have due process questions, that is there. So if you need to ask like, okay, here's my case and you want to upload your case to, there is a limit. You can't upload like 1,000 files at once, but I think it's 20 megabyte files. You can upload it and it will go through your case and we'll find the due process that was messed up. Now, is that a local due process? No, it's a federal due process. It's under, the constitutional federal due process. So, if you have any of those rights violated, there is, due process AI there now. You can upload, you can put in, you can talk to it now. So at FreemanBot, you can talk to it. So go and have a conversation with FreemanBot if you haven't had one lately, and you'll be surprised at what else you find out. So, don't take my word for it on this stuff. Ask FreemanBot, and it will probably give you some more answers than I could, because I'm speaking AI probably every single day, but only for the good, So keep it that way. Stay positive. We love you, and we'll see you next week.